Hello everybody. First of all, I would like to thank you to Professor Brian Parr for this great subject. Today I'm going to present my final presentation about the effect of selenium in the meat characteristics and the enzyme glutathione peroxidase. And of course, my name is Eduard Castanyer. First of all, I am going to present a little bit the most important points that I am going to explain about this great topic. The first one is try to make a brief introduction about the topic. The second one is the review of the literature that I used, to implement, of course, after this review, an experimental plan. And the last part is the experimental, just explain a little bit the design of the experimental to try to show to you how the selenium affects the meat characteristics in the beef sector. And of course, I also used some broiler trials, so the experimental part is only focused in beef, but the review of the literature I also used some broiler articles. A little bit, if I want to explain a little bit the introduction of my topic. The first thing that we have to define is what is the meat quality. The term meat quality is used to describe the characteristics and the perception of the meat. We know that, for example, nowadays the consumer wants the best quality meat possible, so we have to work to try to get it. So in this definition we will include different attributes like the composition, the carcass performance, of course the genetics of the animals are really important, also some chemical parameters determined by different tests. So we have a different kind of experts who are going to determine if the meat has the best quality or not, and these factors combined with the perception of the consumer will evaluate the quality of the meat. Also, of course, this meat quality depends, as I said, to a lot of different chemical parameters, like for example the genetics of the animals. Is it completely different if also in the age of the animal or the sex? I mean, it's not the same a Holstein bull of more than 1 year, or for example a crossbreed Belgian blue, a heifer, for example. So also the sex, the transport, the animal handling. So we'll have a lot of different kind of things that are going to affect the meat quality. The meat quality, to try to affect it more or less, we can divide these two different factors. So the first one is the diet that the animal is going to receive. So in this part we have the macronutrients, the micronutrients, and the diet managed are really important. And then in the other hand we have the feed additives. So for example the selenium, which is the main topic that we're going to speak during this presentation, the diet selenium, of course, and the glutathione peroxidase. So what is selenium and why this selenium affects the meat quality? The first thing that we have to know is that selenium is a micronutrient that most of the animal has a deficiency. So this is the reason why we need to put it in the diet to try to get a better meat quality. And selenium is the main substrate that the enzyme glutathione peroxidase use to create his effect. So this is the reason why the selenium is really important and why we need higher concentration of this mineral, because it is very important. So this enzyme, the glutathione peroxidase, is really described, and we are going to see it in the review of the literature, that contribute to increase the meat quality. And also factors like the drip dose will decrease if we have a better glutathione peroxidase concentration. So this is the more or less the summary of why the selenium is really important in terms of meat quality. So the purpose of the study is try to determine the correlation between the organic selenium and the meat quality. We are going to see that it is really different if we use an organic form or an inorganic form. So we are going to try to determine the difference. The first part, as I said, will be to determine the amount of selenium to increase the glutathione peroxidase. Then the second part will consist in analyze the effects of selenium in terms of meat quality, for example, the drip loss, or maybe the pH of the meat, or moreover, for example, the maturation process of this meat. And the last part will consist in determining the effects of selenium in terms of drip loss. So the second part, as I said, is a review of literature. So for example, I took these two articles, so Slavik in the first part and then Estin et al. These articles were published in 2018. And these two articles, what they said is that when we used an inorganic forms of mineral, we have a lot of different interaction between them. And then if we compare with organic forms, we're going to see that the concentration of these minerals and these enzymes, for example, the second study, the Steed et al., so describes that when we use an organic selenium, the concentration of the selenium in the blood is going to increase, and also the glutathione peroxidase enzyme will increase too. So the main difference is that when we use an organic form, we're going to have better performance, and this is the main point of this study. We have to use an organic form. So the second part in this study, these two studies, Koji and Kan, compare the meat characteristics using the selenium form. So this both the study says that when we use an organic form of selenium, we are going to have better performance. And also these two studies, Downs, which is a study that compares the meat characteristics in broilers using an organic form of selenium, and then Luceva in terms of beef. So they are going to relate the use of organic selenium and a better performance of the carcass. Also the drip loss is analyzed in the first study, and it says that decrease when we use an organic form of selenium, because one of the main points of this enzyme, the glutathione peroxidase, is that decreases the drip loss, because the tight junctions in the meat are better. So, and finally, if we do a summary of the review of this literature, we're going to compare organic selenium versus inorganic, determine the concentration of selenium in the diet to obtain the optimal meat qualities, compare the difference in carcass performance with animals supplemented with selenium versus a control group in broilers and in beef, and the final part is try to determine the benefits of selenium in terms of drip loss. Analyze the benefits of selenium during the maturation meat process. And finally, the third part, the experimental one. So we're going to describe a little bit the research design, the subjected selection, the instrumentation, and the data collection and analyze this data. So the first research design, the main point is try to design an experiment to know if we supplemented an organic form of selenium in 2 pens of beef animals and observe the difference in the meat characteristics. So the subjected selection will be 2 pens of 50 animals each one in a feedlot in Spain that contains more than 2,000 animals, and in one part, in one pen of 50 animals, we're going to use a diet with an inorganic selenium, and the second pen we're going to use an non-organic form. Sorry, it's quite difficult for me. And then the summation that we're going to use to compare these two different pens is the NRC diets. So the diets in the two groups are going to be the same. Maybe then in the future we can do another the same experimental. So the diets are the same, but the only thing that difference both diets is that, as I said, one diet contains inorganic selenium and another one an organic selenium. So two different selenium supplemented diets. We're going to use lab trials to determine the pH of the meat after the slaughter, and also the drip loss to compare the drip loss between these two pens, and statistical tools like t-test, ANOVA, and chi-square. And the data collection is going to be collected after slaughter the animals, and we're going to use the 10, 20 and 30 days after slaughtering the animals, and we're going to see the difference between the pH and also the maturation process and the drip loss of this carcass. And then we can see the references. And again, I really appreciate your attention during my presentation, and if you have any questions, so please send me an email to my email direction. So thank you very much, and see you.